Welcome to Life Coaching for Dance Studio Owners. Each week, we talk money, mindset, and self-care to help you live a more peaceful life and lead a more profitable business. Let's get started. Well, today's episode, I am so excited. I have Erin Pompa here, and believe it or not, I discovered her on LinkedIn, and I said, oh my gosh, she's got the energy that I like, and discovered that we're both from New Jersey, in different necks of the woods of the dance world, but both putting out a positive message and helping people find their peace, work through things that are going on in our mindset and our thoughts. And so I said, we have to have Erin on the podcast. So I'm so glad you're here. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I am so honored to be here. When you reached out to me, I was like, wow, look at that. It shows that, I've been thinking a lot about having like a big following or whatever, and like growing social media. And it could be such a love-hate relationship. But then moments like this and a lot of other moments remind me to keep showing up, because you never know who's watching. So I hope everyone remembers that.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Yes, absolutely. So my name is Erin Pompa, and I am a Jersey girl all the way. I started out as I've had many careers. I grew up in New Jersey. I went to school in New Jersey, Montclair State, got my master's from NYU, Steinhardt School. I ran a high school dance program for 14 years in Paterson, New Jersey, the school that I graduated from. I love that career, and I toured part-time with different companies as a dancer, which I'm really grateful to do. And there came a moment in my life where I asked myself, what else? Who else am I? I really started to question, not that I didn't love my students. That wasn't the thing. It wasn't that. It was just like, I came to wonder what other layers and what else I could do in the world. Because if you're a dancer listening to this, or a dance educator, that could become our identity for a long time. So if somebody said, who are you? Oh, I'm Erin, I'm a dancer. And even my family laughed about it. So then when the pandemic hit, I started a coaching business, helping dancers bring their businesses online. But I felt like that wasn't in alignment with me. And I felt like I was following like the coaching craze that was popular on the internet at that time. And the older I get and the more I spend time on spiritual development and personal development, the more I know, for me, what is my highest value is to be in alignment with the work my higher power, God, wants me to do. So that's crushing my ego a lot of like starting and stopping and really trying to center myself. So I got quiet, and it was a really messy journey. And it was, my husband was like, what you doing? I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And so it came to me, public speaking. And it was just like that, public speaking. And I'm like, okay, how do I do this? And now I'm a full-time public speaker, and I like to say it with full transparency, because people could say full-time anything, and you could take it as like, oh, they pay for everything and they have like everything taken care of. No, with me and my husband, I'm allowed or not allowed or have the space to do full-time work, right? I didn't like that I used allowed, but he carries the weight of what he carries. I carry the weight of what I carry. And this could be my full-time job. I say that because I don't want anybody to ever feel pressure to be full-time in something, because there's a lot of components that go into being able to step into full-time space, and there's privilege that comes along with that also. So with that said, I am a youth speaker. I speak to youth about navigating fear and strengthening resilience. I do that independently. I travel across the country. I do conferences, high schools. I had no idea that this was what I was going to speak about. I very much resisted it. And then I surrendered to it. And I realized that there were parts of my stories that needed to be heard. Most recently, I started Truth Speaks 365, which is a company of speakers that are underrepresented, Black and brown and female speakers that all focus on resilience. So right now I am in the destructive behavior and the shifting negative thoughts area of resilience. And I have another speaker that talks about healthy relationships and boundaries and red flags and green flags. And I'm in a conversation about bringing on another speaker talking about financial literacy. Like, these are all things that our kids need to know and need to understand how to bounce back from when it gets challenging.
Yeah. As you're speaking, sure, there was a career shift, but I think the impact that you're having on the lives of youth is still this undercurrent. And it's kind of like the seed was planted, going back home to your home school and giving back there.
Yeah.
But now it's just magnified. I mean, to touch people as a speaker, the number of people that you can reach, it's just, explodes. And then, of course, you have recordings and things that you can share. So
Yeah.
I think that's really powerful.
Thank you.
Um, I actually just interviewed Jenny O'Brien, who she had a dance studio and then she ended up selling her studio and going out on her own and creating a whole new business, writing a book, coaching other entrepreneurs doing things. And in a way, that skill set of being an educator, maybe it's not about doing a tendu, maybe it's about something else, but I think there's still that heart of the teacher at the root of what's happening here.
Mhm.
Um, I like to share these stories because I think that when people hear what's possible, that you can transition from the academic world at, the K to 12 education into honestly what's pulling on your heart that maybe people resist, to see when people have actually done it, that it is possible, but also acknowledging the challenges along the way. What was it like for you to make that transition from being with your students to saying, like, I'm going down this new path and I don't exactly know how it's going to work out?
Well, I like to be really frank. It was hard. It was hard balancing both, especially with the demands of running of what I like to say a high school dance program that I was proud of.
Hmm.
So there became times where I was not always showing up as the teacher I wanted to. Maybe I gave them independent things and I was working on my business. And it's not stuff that I'm proud of, but those are things that I did. And I'm sharing it because I know that I'm not the only one. And
Yeah.
it's like something that you want to like kind of hide from. But let's be real, like it's really hard to find the balance with both. And you just have to remind yourself where your values are and like try to correct your behavior, but you're not required to do it perfectly. So that was hard. Time management was really hard, especially because I'm a very like ambitious person and I have a lot of goals and it's hard when I want to do a lot of things. And then what was also hard was surrendering to the fact that what I chose next wasn't the thing that was meant for me. That was
Mm.
really hard because it got to a place where it gave me the ability to leave my full-time job. And I mean, it was still challenging, but I just didn't want to do it. And then surrendering to that and not forcing myself to do it. And then also like letting my ego die because like I have to go back to subbing. I have a master's degree. Like that's what my ego will say. You have a master's degree. You ran
Right.
a program. Like, no, but I had to go back to subbing in order to give myself money so that I could grow and understand how to grow a speaking business. So there was a lot of personal development and spiritual development that happened to me on that journey. And I think the hardest thing was understanding that it's okay and I'm not a bad person because sometimes we could look around. Well, I could look around at all the people and I can compare my insides to their outsides. Oh my gosh, like look at how much they're blowing up. They have a book, they have a tour, they have a blah, 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 blah. All I see is what they have on social media and I'm
Yeah.
comparing myself to them. I even do that now. I have a love-hate relationship with social media. Like I'm really grateful as a speaker. I get my business from offline, not to say online doesn't give me any
Right.
lead.
Right.
But one thing that really was important to me when I went from the coaching business to the speaking business was like, I was really tired of selling on social media. It
Mm.
messed with my head a lot. It messed with my self-worth a lot. And I knew that I wanted to grow my speaking business so that that wasn't my means. So right now with social media, it's like, I'm looking at all these people who seem to like get huge followings, and I have to start to understand to disconnect that from my self-worth. So that's just what I'm dealing with right now in all transparency.
Yeah. Okay. You touched on so many things, so many points that I want to get to. Um, First, I want to talk. You mentioned God and spiritual journey. I know for a lot of people that if there's a disconnect in that way with your spiritual journey, that um, it can make things that much harder because we're constantly at tension in that way.
Mhm.
How does your relationship with God kind of influence your work and your
Oh,
decision making?
I have a post-it right here. God, please speak through me and deliver to me what you need me to share. Like, I have to remind myself, first of all, like, people find faith because they were brought into it. But I like the saying that says, like, people find religion when they're brought into it, but faith when they need it. Like, I was
Mm,
brought into faith because I needed it. Like, it was something, my life was not in a place that I loved. So, I don't come from religion, but now I like read the Bible. I listen to Joyce Meyer. I do all these things to kind of build my own spiritual practice, not necessarily a religious practice. So, how does God play a role? Like, I read this book recently called Grace Over Grind. I love this author, Shay Bynes, I think her name is, and she talks about kingdom-driven entrepreneurship. And it's just like how to bring God into your planning, how to bring God into your day to day. Like, I want to always remember that I am a vessel and I always want to stay humble because left to my own devices, I could think I am the one making this happen and I'm not. So that is how I bring him into my business.
yeah. Mm. Um, you also mentioned the social media grind, and oddly enough, I know, um, oddly enough, I have been listening to a podcast and following someone who her entire mission is to show people, actually people of faith, like how to grow your business without the hustle and grind of social media. And kind of her testimony was that it is it got to the point where it was so difficult for her. Her name is Stephanie Gass. It got difficult for her to feel like she was exploiting her children on social media, trying to get money in her business, right? Like, oh, let me play the part of an influencer and look at my life and use that to sell. And I know it, just from my observations doing business for, as long as I have, the external, as you say, comparing my insides to their outsides, that external likes and comments don't equal dollars in your business.
No.
You only have their attention for a small amount of time. And there's a lesson to be learned when we realize that, yeah, there is a game to play on social media, but it is not the only way to grow a business. And I think that's a myth and a distraction that holds so many of us back from growing our business. Like you said, you get things offline. I get clients from the podcast. There's things that we can do, quite honestly, that are long form that you and I do, where that long form lasts and lasts. The words that you
Yeah.
speak to a child in a school somewhere in California, that's still resonating with them. They were paying attention then more than if they see you on TikTok.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you said it's like my mind was so small when I was introduced to online business because I thought it was only way to really do that or have a brick and mortar like a dance studio or something. I didn't see the in
Yeah.
between. And like, my business as a speaker is pitching a lot of like the decision makers. And there's so many. It's like just picking what decision makers I'm going to pitch because there's conferences, there's schools, there's youth space, there's SACs, there's principal. Like you start to learn and it's like I feel so much at ease with email pitching because it's like they just don't answer and that's fine. Like it's just like like it's just fine. And then like
Yes.
referrals and word of mouth, like when you do good work, like I sure with coaching, people want to refer you. I didn't know the power of referrals until I stepped into this speaking business because that is how I get a lot of gigs.
Yeah. But I think there's a lot to be said for that, right? I mean, yes, this is Life Coaching for Dance Studio Owners podcast. And one of the things that I like to do is like open people's minds that there's other options available to us. And I know also that most dance studio owners have like five other business ideas in the back of their head that they just
Of course.
haven't gotten to yet. Um, so looking at that, yeah, there's other ways to get business. And quite honestly, this is just my opinion, and others might argue differently, but the time we spend doing a Canva post to put it out there that 1% of our followers are going to see and forget about because they're scrolling, trying to just waste time waiting for a doctor's appointment, versus someone having a great experience with you who spreads the word to 5 friends. I mean, it's so hard to compare those two because the
Yeah.
value of just putting yourself out there and delivering something great versus trying to market on social media, trying to get attention, really. It's just not the same.
And it's really interesting because I do, my speaking coach and I were talking about my relationship with social media and the importance of still maybe having like that kind of digital footprint.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I think for me, it's like I'm on a journey of learning how to do it in a very healthy way that
Absolutely.
does not have to be done every day.
Right.
So it's so funny. And it's so funny that you just said this. I'm like, I was talking to myself, I was like, maybe I just need a social media manager. Like that's where I'm at, like or a strategist. And it's so
Mm-hmm.
funny you brought this up because I do believe divine messages come through people and things.
Yeah.
And you just gave me that name. That might not be the answer, but it's a nugget, right? And it's just like, and then it's figuring out, do you want to outsource? Like, it was funny. Oh, this is such like my mom. I said, Ma, I started doing one load of laundry a day instead of all for the weekends. And I'm like, Ma, it wastes money. She's like, yeah, but if it's going to save you time, it's worth it. That's the
Mm.
same thing with like outsourcing or getting things off your plate that hurt you mentally or emotionally. If it's
Yeah.
going to save you mental bandwidth and emotional like security, then outsource it.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes that outsourcing is simply AI.
Sometimes.
Sometimes it's simply AI, or, somebody who wants to support and help you and do something part-time.
Yeah.
Um, so when you do your speaking, I know you talk a lot about, you know, the things that are going on inside of us that nobody knows is happening, right? What do you do? What are some tips for people to kind of recenter themselves in trying to find their peace? Maybe there's some kind of internal turmoil going on. Or is there um, something that you would recommend to someone who's in that place right now in their life?
Yeah, I laugh because you got 55 minutes. I'm giving this keynote actually on Thursday to a bunch of SAC coordinators in New Jersey, which I'm grateful for. But so the first thing I'm going to preface to say is like I am not a licensed professional,
Yeah.
and I use my experience, strength, and hope. And I feel like this is a message that I have been divinely led to give through the experiences I have gone through. In no way am I trying to clinically diagnose you or to give you any medical advice. I'm giving you
Right.
tips and strategies, but there's always that deeper work. Listen, I got a network of friends. I have a therapist. Like it takes an army and a village depending on where you are in your life and the support you need. These tactics are not going to support you if you're going to be someone who needs more support, and needing
Right.
more support is fine. So what I really do focus on is a framework, right? Like, so we talk about, we all have negative thoughts, no matter if you're 10 or you're 70, you have negative thoughts. Actually, every person has 80% of negative thoughts every single day. So that means that 20% are not negative. So that means that we have to work to be happy. Now, some people are genuinely like more upbeat and more positive, but everybody has to do this work. And what I believe is as we grow and as life gets busy, you take care of children, you have dying parents, you have debt you want to get out of, you could start to get caught up in the busy, and these negative thoughts could get really freaking loud. And you forget to put on your oxygen mask, as everyone says. So I teach a framework. It's called PAGS, a perspective shift through acceptance and gratitude. And what it really talks about is this idea of really honoring the fact that as life starts to pile up on you, you could start to focus on the black dot. And what I like to say the black dot is a black dot, if you're a mover, it's small, it's condensed, it's tight. Oh my gosh, that I didn't get that job promotion. Too much traffic, the coffee spilled, my husband and I are not right. I didn't get the baby I want when I want. Like these are some big and small life things, but the more that they pile up, the smaller your life gets
Right.
until you practice the power of a perspective shift. And the perspective is that space all around it. Perspective isn't making the situation change, it's the way that you look at the situation that changes, and that is the difference from living in a place of despair for me and a place of gratitude and hope. Because when you don't have hope, when I don't have hope, my life feels really empty when I'm in that black dot. But when I'm out of it, I feel very light and hopeful and even like a kinder human being. So, how do you do that? Well, the first one is acceptance. And we know what this is in a big term. Acceptance is focusing on what you can control and letting go of what you can't control, right? And I could tell you to, yeah, like accept it, accept it, accept it. It's hard, okay? It's
Mm-hmm.
hard. But let me tell you this from personal experience, the more you practice pause and interjecting, oh, wait, can I control this? Is this out of my control? Am I trying to control this? It could be as simple as like my husband, whom I love dearly, will keep putting dishes in the sink and not the dishwasher, right? I'm like, Paul, can you put the dishes in the sink? Paul, why don't I just put the dishes in the dishwasher? Why? Because I tell myself that I do so much, blah, 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 right? We'll go on and
Right.
on. Right, but I cannot control if he puts it in the sink. I ask, but now what is in my control? If I don't want to look at it, I can move it. And that's where the ego is at play, right? It's like
Right.
surrendering to the fact that we're not going to get things to be the way we want them all the time. And this is work. Today, I can tell you that I'm okay with the dish in the sink and I'll put it in the dishwasher. Tomorrow, depending on what happened in my day, I might be like, what? You know what I mean? So it's not about being perfect. It's
Right.
just about starting to question what you're in control of and what you're not. You know, my husband and I are trying for a baby, and for a long time, I'm 44 years old, and for a long time, we were focusing on the black dot. I was focusing on the black dot from a miscarriage, from a chemical pregnancy. I was like, this is never going to happen. I waited too long. Why am I being punished? Oh, poor me, poor me, poor me, right?
Yeah.
What did that do? That made the journey feel so much harder. That made every month when I was getting a negative pregnancy test harder. Have I still since then got negative pregnancy tests? And yes, but has it gotten easier? Yeah. Why? Because I cannot control my age, but I would
Yeah.
get mad and say I needed to. I
Yeah.
cannot control the fact that I had a miscarriage, but I can control who my doctors are and how I care for myself. See, when we shift what we can focus on, the way we perceive it changes. So, that's one way. Like, start to play with that. You're dancers, start to play with it. I'm not saying make it I'm saying investigate it. Listen
Yeah.
to a podcast on it, read a book about it, pull out a Bible verse on it if that's your, like, I don't know, but start to explore what this idea of control is, and it's going to change your perspective. And the last way I want to leave with you today of how to like work is gratitude. Like I hear and I see gratitude. I think gratitude. No, 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 no. I'm talking about gratitude when life pulls you down. Like
Yeah.
I had to get myself off of the couch after we had that miscarriage because my heart was broken. Like
Yeah.
it was, I didn't broken. And gratitude played such a big part. Like it's not something that happened right away. I had to process it with my therapist. I had to feel my feelings, but then I was able to find gratitude. Oh, okay. Wow, I talked to this woman. Wow, this one too had a miscarriage. Okay, gratitude. I'm not alone. And I have a community of people that support me. Gratitude. Wow, we have money to try again.
Yeah.
People don't. Wow, I am still getting my period, and I don't have endometrial. Like I have fibroids, but not endometrial. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like
Right.
it ain't making the baby come. It ain't making the situation go away, but it's making how I change. Like life is not going to be perfect, and I think sometimes people want that and expect that. That's not what it's about. It's about how we view life when it gives us hardships. So yeah, that's what I got.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Mm. You touched on so many things, and it reminded me. I heard, I believe it was Layla Hormozy who
Layla
said,
Hormozy, I like her.
yes, she said, um, things don't get easier. You get better at handling the hard things.
Oh, I love that.
And that's what I was thinking as you were saying that. And um, I want to say thank you so much
Oh my
because
gosh.
you're saying the things that are the real things, the real hard things that um, I actually just recorded an episode about like people are trying to fix things with marketing. There's internal things, there's financial issues, there's
Mhm.
staffing issues, business structure and operation issues. But we're like, oh, I just, if I had more customers, then things would be better. I believe I'll be better when. But there's
All right.
real issues, right? And I think
Yeah.
when we accept it, like it's part of the human experience. Um, and as my husband says, like social media, it's the highlight reel. We don't even realize all else that's going on in other people's lives.
Right.
Um,
We don't. And that's why it's so important. That's why I and my company go speak to these students. And just like how you said, I'm really frank person. Like I don't like when people speak fluff to me. I've been in
mhm.
education for so many years. Kids don't need that. They
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
They're tired of it. Like they need real conversations that make them reflect internally.
Yeah. So, I know that you primarily speak to schools, right?
Well, I do schools and conferences. I did dance studios for a while. Sometimes I do, like I presented at Dance Teachers Summit
Okay.
and another one. I do some of those conferences and sometimes I go out to studios to do presentations. I do it two ways when I do it at studios. I do it
Mhm.
one through I through interaction and like teaching. But the other one I do is through something I called character move, where we actually move through each section of what I'm teaching them through exploring compositional phrases so that they can
Mm.
start to um break down the self-consciousness they have around themselves, because let's be real, if they're not learning composition and you tell them to improv, they'll be like, oh my gosh, can you please get away from me? So that's another way that I do that. That
Yeah.
program is actually potentially going into a school system. So
Awesome.
yeah.
So, if someone wanted to kind of learn more about what you do and wants to book you, where can they find out more?
I'm gonna give you my website, Erin Pompa, ErinPompa.com. But then I'm gonna like be cringy, and even though we said no, see, this is why the social media, right? Like, and then I got two social media handles. So how do I navigate that? The first one is at Erin P Speaks, and the second one for my company is Truth Speaks 365.
Awesome. So I'll make sure to link those in the show notes so that you can reach out to Erin if you're looking to add her for your school or your studio to share with your students and bring her message. Erin, I just want to ask you any final thoughts? If there is a dance studio owner listening today and like your message is meant for her, what would that be? What would you want to say? Final words.
I want to tell you to read the book Big Magic. That's it.
Mm.
Read the book Big Magic. It's Elizabeth Gilbert. It talks about creativity. It talks about vocation, career. It just gives perspective. I guess I feel like I left you with enough. That book is on my heart to tell you to read.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hey there. If you're finding value in our podcast and want to dive deeper, I'd love to work with you through my coaching program. Together, we can tackle the challenges of running a dance studio and find your path to peace and profits as a business owner. Visit gingerhaithcox.com/coaching and get started today.